lot to cover this evening. We need to first pass the minutes from the last meeting of December 13th. Can everybody hear me okay? Everyone had a chance to read them, and any corrections, additions?
No? I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of December 13th, 2017.
Thanks, Vicki. Any second?
Seconded.
Second, Mary. All in favor?
Aye.
Any problems? Good. Thank you. We have one announcement tonight, which is sort of the obvious one. We have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow night, and none of us will be here. The building will be locked down, and when they cancel the building, they cancel us. We're not allowed to meet at another spot or somebody's home, as much fun as that would be. So our next meeting for the second half of the presenters will be Monday night in this room, I guess. We have to be in a room that films those particular meetings. So I guess we're back here on Monday night, 7 o'clock.
Yes, I think it's actually going to be upstairs.
We're actually upstairs,
Yes.
so the other recorded room. And Carol spent the last 24 hours checking with everybody and getting us all scheduled. We tried for Tuesday night. They didn't have a filming room available for us. And we have to be filmed. So Monday night, the 8th, and then on Wednesday night, the 13th, we vote.
10th.
10th, long day. Okay, so we'll go right through the list in front of you today. This is a chance for proponents to add any additional information, update their projects, tell us anything else they've discovered in the meantime since they were here last. And it's not a rehash of the project. So if it's something you've said to us already, we've got it. But add anything else that you'd like, and we'll ask any other questions that we have, and then we should move right on quickly. So the first one tonight is Conservation of Historic Town Records, Andrea Young.
Hi, I'm Andrea Young. I'm the administrator for the Historical Commission. And actually, our project is to conserve, to restore and conserve a number of really ancient books that are housed in the town clerk's office. And this is the second go-around for this. You awarded us 6,000 something last year, and now we're going for another 12 books. And other than, nothing has changed from what I spoke about the first time. We're still asking for $3,050, and I think that's it.
Let's go right around the room. Sorry about two missing, but you have a question for her?
And we talked about the possibility of asking for more because it's so modest for what you're accomplishing. And I thought you thought that there would be the time for him to do the whole job if we had more money.
That is correct.
Did you decided not to seek more, or?
Well, I didn't quite take that as an invitation to ask for more, so I apologize. I must have misunderstood, but nevertheless.
It was meant to be a broad hint.
Well, I guess I'm a little dull, so.
No, clearly I wasn't clear.
But yes, he is able to do additional, but I think we've settled on this amount at this point. So, but thank you, Jim. Appreciate that.
Any questions? If you had to explain this to, or answer questions from BOS or EdCom, could you do it? Are you all there? We probably couldn't actually, off the top of our heads, name what you're doing, but you have it in the list, and we can show them the list.
We had a pretty good description of the work involved in page by page, just, reinforcing
Yeah,
and
it was
making
interesting.
accessible.
Good pictures.
Yeah. And last time they were good pictures, so.
Okay, thank you so much. That was
Thank
easy.
you. Appreciate it.
I think it's really quite astonishing that you can do that.
Yeah,
You hear things like the Book of Kells that you can't
Yeah.
touch, you only see them.
absolutely fascinating what he can do. Second tonight is Old Ordinary, master plan for the Old Ordinary site. I don't see Robin here. Ms. Robin's here. Why don't we skip on and maybe she'll get here. Memorial Bell Tower Bells. Our same dynamic duo.
I'm Martha Ryan from the Hingham Memorial Bell Tower from 16 Brewster Road.
And I'm Daniel Cushing from the Memorial Bell Tower, and I live in Boston.
We prepared a handout just with some more specifics of the cost of the bells. Our request is bills 6 and 8. The amount was adjusted slightly to account for a 15% contingency fund.
That
which
was what Roger had suggested.
Yeah, which
Okay.
is what he suggested last time, so that's now 28,535. We did also go back to the foundry and just confirm the cost of what it would cost to do all 10 bells, just to be very specific about what the cost of the whole 10 bells are. And also just delineated on the bottom of this page what the savings would be in terms of doing it all at once. So the savings really would have to do with the cost of a crane rental. So if you do it 2 at a time, every time you do it, you would be renting the crane. And every time you do it, you'd be paying travel costs for the foundry employees to come and do the work. So those are the potential cost savings of doing it all at once.
And this is a firm bid from him. He would stick to this 10 bells.
What he has said is, they look for a letter of agreement or intent. So it was done this year. I'm not sure how that works with the town meeting and whether we would be able to sign anything with him right now, but if we were able to make that agreement with him, then that would be fixed for this
And
year.
of course, town meeting, if it's passed, funding wouldn't come in until the month after that, so that would give him plenty of time to do a contract and make it
Yeah, I
firm.
think, they're just looking for, if we could commit to them that we were planning to do the work, then they would be willing to
How
hold
do you
it.
two personally feel about the difference between doing two? You had mentioned trying the new foundry and finding a comfort level with them before maybe going on, and yet some of us heard, gee, let's get them all done and it'll work better that way. You leaning one way or the other?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were trying to be modest in our request and respectful of what we absolutely feel is a necessity and a need right now with the 2 bells. But it would be lovely and amazing if, and I think in the best interest of the tower to do all 10, so, and I'm guessing you would agree.
But my concern is that at some point, all 10 are going to need to be done, because they're all in similar condition. The 6 and 8, for some reason, are the most egregious, but they all need to be done. So my feeling is if you can repair the entire instrument, you're in a better place.
So if we can work out the numbers, that would really be what you'd prefer.
Yes.
And the 133, is that also include a contingency?
Yes, it includes the 15% there.
Oh, I see, okay, great, perfect. Okay, anything else come up with you that? No.
Do you have questions for us?
I always try to imagine what Jim and I are going to say to the AdCom and selectmen. Can we answer the questions? And your explanations are very clear. I get it. I plan to emphasize the historic part of it, since preservation is what they want to hear from us. So all about the bells ringing in England and Hingham in England.
Absolutely.
All that part of it.
Descriptions are there.
Yeah, rather than the technical side of the
Absolutely.
repair work. I think that'll make more of an impact.
I think you're right.
And you've given us great pictures to use. We always do an overhead projection, so this will be very handy if it goes through. And
Thank you.
great,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you
This
very much.
could be a quick night. Yay,
Let's go.
okay. And the Hingham Cemetery landscaping project?
Here we go again. Ruth Davis speaking on behalf of the Hingham Cemetery, and I'm here to do an amendment to our original request. And you have received, I think, the one-page supplement that I sent out to Carol Costello back just before Thanksgiving. Based on emails with our project manager, Vicki, and after further discussion, we are changing our project request to deal solely with the erosion control area, which is the bluff and the slope going from the mechanical tunnel back towards the entrance to the cemetery. We are not dealing with the area that is the bend around towards Old Ship Church. We are still going with implementing the planting design that Sean Papich has done, and we feel that with the site preparation, which includes cleaning up, backfill, and reducing the grade of the slope, that the plantings will succeed based on his sense of expertise. We think that the plantings is a cost-effective way to go through this, and we are amending our request to $15,000 from the original $40,000 grant. And thanks to Carol and Vicki, I have some photographs. I don't have one for everybody, but these
Oh,
are in
nice.
sets of 3.
Oh, that's
And it will give you an
wonderful.
idea of what the erosion area looks like, that we are going to address, and I'm going to try and pass these out with filling the slope.
So the slope aiming over at Old Ship will not be touched?
Not touched at this time,
Will
no.
you prune back and let it just stay as is?
Another time, we may address that issues, but for this planning cycle, we are focusing on the erosion that is the bluff and the slope, you know, the long stretch towards the cemetery grate.
Can you explain the prison?
That's a kind of mechanical tunnel that is stuck into the wall, but you can see the gravel and the erosion all around it. That's my modification.
Has equipment in there?
You know, I don't know exactly what's in there right now. It's not a burial crypt.
Thought it was a
Okay.
tomb.
It's a mechanical tunnel,
As far as we know, we're sticking to that story.
yes.
Sorry, no, you go.
Sean had always talked about having to go around it. If you built up the wall, it would have to go around. That has to stay open,
Yes.
whatever it is. Okay.
Are you confident that you're not going to disturb graves with this excavation?
Not on the side, no. There's nothing, there are no crypts on the slope. They're up on top on the bluff that is immediately behind Old Ship.
So no augmenting of the other wall and no bringing the wall around,
No.
just
We did-
his original design, basically, on that side.
We did talk to our landscape contractor who had done Water Street, and for an entire retaining wall, he quoted over $100,000. So we are staying with the planting as a cost-effective means of dealing with the erosion issues in that area. What we decide to do behind Old Ship will come at another time.
Yeah. The question was asked, I think, at your first meeting with us, whether those posts that stick along there, they look like cement or granite or something,
The bollards?
are they the actual borderline between the town property and the cemetery property?
On the left-hand side, no. I mean, they're sort of decorative markers, but the road itself, I think, is our property marker
Oh,
that goes actually into the cemetery grate. Now, on the right-hand side, which is the bell tower side, that's either Old Ship or town land, and it's not any of us, belongs to us.
okay. And nobody's gone to the town and checked to make sure that's the actual borderline? I just worry if you put in a lot of soil to build up the embankment, and it
Don't
comes
worry,
into
we'll-
somebody's property.
No, it's nobody else's property. It belongs to us.
Okay,
In fact, even the road is the cemeteries, there's an easement for others to go through.
yeah. So it should be fine. And the big tree that we're seeing right there, that stays, obviously, that's
Yes.
permanent.
One of the trees stays, and they'll put a protective half well around it, and then another tree closer to the gate will come down.
Okay. So you're saying what you're going to do is going to cost 15,000, not that
That's a
that's
third.
our portion, and you're paying part of it?
We're paying part of it. The 15,000 is the third that we're requesting.
Oh, okay. So it'll still be 43,000, it'll just be
It
your...
will still be between $40,000 and $43,000 to do
Okay.
that section. So we're requesting a third of that at 15.
Okay.
Very modest.
What's in the mechanical tunnel, just out of curiosity?
I'm sorry?
What's in the mechanical tunnel? I mean, what,
Was it an electric?
I think they're electronic boxes.
Whether they're active or not, I don't know. I mean, it's a very, very old insert.
Watering system?
What, dear?
Were they talking about a watering system?
No, they don't know what it is.
Oh,
Kind of creepy, though.
yeah, I wouldn't want to go in.
Don't want to go in there.
Now, further down, they're definitely crypts, but that is a mechanical thing that was probably set up years and years ago, decades ago.
Yeah,
Good book.
yeah. Okay, what questions do we have? You're explaining this to the selectmen, what are they going to ask us?
Well,
We know the shrubs, we have Sean's plan.
As somebody who's been very involved with this whole project, I have to keep saying those people are hanging on by their fingernails in those grave sites, that literally the erosion, there's no question there's erosion, and the time to act is now. This isn't something that I think can last much longer, so I'm glad that the Cemetery Corporation has worked with us so that they can come in at a third, which is what we like to do with other, applicants, and I think this works for the best in all. And particularly for talking about the bell tower. I mean, this is the best answer to what's going to be a beautiful entrance, which
Little
affects
entrance
the
area.
bell tower as well, so.
Larry, even though you're on the cemetery board, you can talk. It's okay if you want to say.
I think it's a great idea.
Good. That's what I need to be here.
Well, I do think it's a great idea. I think it will stave off the erosion.
Yeah.
And it will also happen to beautify the spot. But the erosion's bad, and something, we have to do it, but there is no waiting on that side.
And I assume you all talked about it at your trustees meeting, and this is okay with everybody, that's
Yes.
changed the price?
Yeah, in fact, Ruth didn't go ahead until we had a board meeting
Oh,
and
good.
it went to a vote. Yeah.
Anything else?
Okay.
Just glad to see it happening.
Thank you, Ruth.
All right, thank you all very much.
I think you had a question?
I did, I was just going to ask about if any other grants were applied. Like, did they apply for any other grants? Ruth, can we just, I'm sorry, can we just ask one question? I think they brought this up already. Have you applied for any other grants?
No, when we made the presentation and spoke back in November, we were in the process of getting all our figures together last summer, and we missed the deadline for a Greenbush application. Depending on the decision of CPC, we will very likely look to, for other sources of grant money, but, this was our starting point.
Sure. Certainly, you're right in the mitigation zone, you're in the Greenbush zone, and that would be good.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Hi, Alexandra. We kind of skipped you because we were going so quickly. Would you do yours next? This is the Hingham Historical Society, Alexandra Rollins.
I could take the extras too.
I know, Emma's paperwork, and I couldn't get it off the printer that.
Alexandra, I could take the extras too for the members that are missing, if that's okay. Two is great. 3 is great. Thank you, Ben.
You've got lots of new things in here.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Major sterilization, right? So I'm here to talk about the Old Ordinary property again. And you all know about the master plan and the archaeology that we have proposed. There were a couple of elephants in the room, and one of them is that I did not get 3 bids for putting in the foundation, so now I have 3 bids here. And I'll go through those. And the other is whether we had joint ownership with the town or the historic commission on the building itself. I have asked Andrea if need be to speak in support of the project, however. So there are a couple of pieces of paper here. The first one is the deed. The second one is the Wilcox bid, which you all saw previously in the packet. I got another bid from Jim Gordon, and it's sort of hidden in there, but it's $10,000. The problem here is we're not talking apples to apples on any of these bids, so they have to be parsed out a little bit when you look at them. He is simply putting it on the foundation and preparing the foundation.
He was the original mover that brought it down the street.
Yes, he was the original mover. And then the final one is Jonathan Detweiler. I added up these costs, but as you see, there are different components than what was in the Jim Gordon
estimate, and it comprises some of what was in the Ben Wilcox. So,
We
not
appreciate
a
you doing
straight
that
on,
work.
but
It added a lot of work for you, but we appreciate it because it gives us a sense that we're in the right ballpark.
yeah, that's what I'm
You still
thinking.
pick-
It was really useful for me,
Yeah.
and it was fun, too.
And you still pick who you think will do the best job, so.
And it was fun because when it was several degrees below, we went crawling under the building to
Oh,
take
lovely.
these photographs to try and actually establish whether or not there were significant structural issues. And you can see on the first photograph that we took last week that there's a line of material all the way down that is of varying types of material. And it obviously puts a lot of weight on this central, it's a tree, but the tree has split right where all the weight sits. And I think you all would agree that, you know, in any structure, it's hard to put a variety of materials together and expect it to last very long, particularly in one that's built in 1685. You have to consider the consequences. This one has been sitting like that since 2014. I put an arrow there. I think you can see that.
I think that's an original beam, still has the bark on it.
Yeah, yeah. And then the next image, which is just of one of the main beams, missing its tenon, and there's a big gap between the foundation and the beam. And then one of my issues was trying to get the color photos off. So the color photos show it better, but there's a lot of rot going on here that you can't really think was there when it was set on its concrete base in 2014. So I know Roger will be glad to know that I did that. 3 bids.
Sure.
I think for me, what the important thing is to consider is that this is not just a town treasure, this is a national treasure. And I definitely did not run out and go apply for grants in May when I arrived, but I looked at that building and I said, there's a problem there. And this is the first priority, is to get this thing on its foundations. And then when I researched more, there wasn't much we could do to put it on its foundations unless we did the archaeology and we did the planning behind it. And so it's a catch-22. For us, my personal opinion as a preservationist, and I've been in it for decades, is that it's risky to leave a 1685 building on concrete blocks for long periods of time, and it has been 4 years now, 3 years, whatever it is. And anything can happen at any time.
These pictures are very compelling.
They are, yeah, they really are.
Your theory. What would you do underneath? I mean, even Ben Wilcox's bid talks about putting it back on the capstones. I didn't read anything in all of here that would say we're going to do something to shore this up from the center.
Well, they've given a lot of wiggle room here, and I don't anticipate that it is only going to be a straight cost. I anticipate that the Historical Society is going to have to put in more funds in order to stabilize that building. Just stabilize it, not restore it or conserve it or anything like that. But if we have to, given the nature of these photographs that show, I mean, there must be 10 different materials in this one photo. And some of them are cardboard, some is plastic. I think we're going to have to do significant work on it. And that's just the way it is. I mean, that's...
I'm not sure I understand how you solved the chicken and the egg problem, but You know where you're going to put this if this
That's
gets
the first
approved?
part.
Well, if we, Andrea suggested that what we do is get the, I think we've all talked about this, get the archaeology done right behind the building first, and see if there's anything there of any consequence. And it's possible we could just shove it back, put it on a good foundation back there, closer to that lot line. But then, you know, you don't know what your master plan is going to end up saying about what the community needs are, and how it will integrate with the rest of the property, and how we'll be able to provide security for it and make use of it as a historic document. So, so that's we could do that. That would definitely not be my preference. I would probably try and just get another grant for the master plan.
If we hypothetically approved the money that it takes to do this, to take it off the blocks, put it on a foundation, would you be able to accomplish that with whatever other funding you get somewhere else for the archaeology?
For the archaeology, I think I would, yeah. Yeah, there's an awful lot of interest in the building itself and in ordinary. I've spoken with the Historical Commission, Mass Historical Commission, and a number of other archaeologically inclined types, and they all know the property, and I think people would jump in there. For me, you know, I have time constraints because I have a lot to do in a day, and so I end up sort of doing everything halfway, and it would mean the allocation of a lot of time to try and cobble it together. But there are a couple of groups even in town that are very interested in archaeology, and they funded projects I've done before. You know, little bits and pieces, not tons of money, but it adds up.
But the idea would be to do a spot archaeology, if you will, right behind where it is now, at lower cost.
Yeah, you could, but then I mean, when I think about it, the way the land is set out, if we move that building back there, so now that's closer to the edge of the property, maybe this year and next year and the next 5 years, it's fine, it's secure. We don't have to put a security system in, we don't have to have somebody guarding it. We can have one person maybe take people through, fine. But how about in 10 years?
Right, but my point is, with the limited resources we have.
Right.
If we want to make sure we save that building
Right?
as the immediate priority,
Yep,
and we appropriated that money, assuming we did,
yep.
would you then be able to assure us that it's going to get done?
I mean, I have to raise money to do the rest of the project anyhow. So I will have to be researching a lot of funding sources anyway and talking to funding sources anyway. It's not that, it would be new work, it would just be additional.
I think we're sort of all in, go ahead, Larry.
And it's additional time, I guess. You know, time, pushing ahead when it would get on its foundation. Because if I apply for a grant, depends where I go, if I get $3,000 in this source, $6,000 in that source, you know, so eventually, let's say next fall, I come up with enough money to do it, then that puts it ahead another year. That's sort of the push and shove of it.
Alexandra, I have hard questions. So
Please, I know what you're going to ask. Go
I
ahead.
have a few questions, I have a few thoughts. One is, and there's no way you could have known this because you weren't even born to Hingham 3 years ago, but it would just be wonderful to, and nobody could have anticipated this, to know if the deterioration we're seeing in the pictures is, if the building underneath looks any different from when it was
No.
first taken off of Fort Hill Street. We
Yeah,
just
I
don't
can't
know.
tell. All I can tell you is when I went under it in the summertime, it was very moist with all sorts of growths under there, which you wouldn't expect if it were on a stable foundation because
Yeah,
it would be protected. And this photo shows the next stage of that deterioration. But I don't know.
You don't know, that's the thing.
No, you don't. It's
Yeah,
it's
it's
a
an unknown.
risk. You just don't know, and you don't know with these old buildings either. Somebody said, well, like some kids could set fire to it. Well, I mean, yeah, could. I mean, it could fall down tomorrow. You
Right,
just
and-
don't know.
Right, there's that. And then, and I say this keeping in mind something I said at a previous meeting, that the town is still on the hook for more than $500,000 for the grant to restore Old Derby.
Indeed,
Some
for
of
which
the-
we are very grateful.
No, I know, and we're grateful. But some of the potential funding available out there is actually has a good chance of being low-lying fruit, like 50,000 from the Mass Historical Commission, and a nice chunk of change from Greenbush. And I know you just got here, and there's a lot going on, but
Right.
those things are there, and there are grants that I never heard of that you know about, 5,000 here, 6,000 there. And then there's your own members of the Historical Society who haven't been hit
Yeah,
up.
we're somewhat stretched at the moment, but yeah.
So those are my concerns.
But yeah, absolutely agree with you. It's just shoving the resolution of the issue down the road a couple of years.
Or one.
Or possibly one, yeah. And I was hoping to go to those other sources to do the next stage of the work, but
Now, this is not the end of this project.
no.
It goes on from here.
No.
Let me ask you about the way it's laid out right now. So PAL, the Public Archaeology
Lab.
Lab, their part's very easy to understand. They're going to drill a whole lot of holes around and look
Yeah.
for bones and shards and sort of advise you that's the better place over there to put the building. That part's very easy for me to understand. For 20,000, it sounds like a deal to me, because that's a lot of work. And Ben Wilcox's piece is extremely clear. You know, he's gonna dig a hole, he's gonna put stone down, he's gonna plant the foundation, he's gonna put the building on top of it, add more stone, and give you a little walkway out of the building, and so, that's really, really clear. And that's 27,000. The part I have trouble with is the Harriman piece. And it's beautifully written. I've gone through a lot of these kinds of things. This is top of the line, I get it. But they're kind of a facilitator. They're going to work with your board or your subset of the board, and they're going to talk about how we want to use the building, what are some of the options, they're going to help you narrow it down, they're going to walk you through the whole process of getting it going. If I just look at those three pieces, it seems to me that that Harriman piece could wait. If you just dig the holes for where you want to put the building and let Ben get in there and plop it down and fix it all up for you, at
Yeah.
least the important part of saving the building is taken care of, and that's 47.5 or something.
Is
It's that,
separate from what we have?
no, this is the original proposal. No, the numbers haven't really changed. It's that Harriman facility, lots of meetings, lots of, we could do this, we could run
Yeah,
programs
it's trying to
there, we
bring
could-
the community into it so
Yeah.
that it becomes a community resource
Yeah, and an important piece.
of various types instead of a historic property.
That's right. I get all that, and I've been through it lots of times, but it seems to me that piece could wait a year. That getting the building in place and preserving it would be number one. And then bring Harriman in the following year and work through with your board and the town and committees and whatever all you want to do to pull that together. That would cut the project in half from our standpoint.
Right, right.
Have you thought about that? Would that,
Yeah, I don't know what the board would say about it. I think, you know, the hope in the museum and preservation field is that the community embrace what's happening,
very important, yeah.
and very much be a part of it.
Right.
A living part of it, instead of, you know, just sort of standing on the sidelines and saying, oh, isn't that pretty? Or,
Right, come see it when it's done.
you know,
Yeah.
gosh, that room looks
Yeah.
good.
But they're not going to dig archaeological stuff, and they're not going to help move the
No,
building.
but we could do a lot of educational programming around it, which would be really fun and interesting.
No. But you don't need Harriman to tell you how to do
Not
that.
Harriman,
yeah.
no.
It's just a thought.
But, right, no, it's a good thought. And I've sort of parsed it 6 ways to Sunday, I must tell you.
You know what we're facing, and I'm just trying to get something going so you can all have projects that are out and moving. They're all good. There's not a bad project here.
I know.
And,
I know, I'm sorry that a couple of them have dropped out, actually.
yeah, me too. It's okay. That was just a thought I had that,
It's a good thought.
you were so good about getting us all of your numbers, and I have to tell you, I don't read a lot of those, so I didn't know exactly what I was looking at. Could you just give me sort of a yes or no? Capital campaign needs at this point are still at what level? 400, 500?
500 on a loan, and then we need to repay our endowment about 250,000. We borrowed from our endowment. We
Okay,
drew our
so you
endowment
did
down.
go across the street and borrow
Yes, we did.
times 250?
No,
Roughly.
It's 500 from Hingham Institute of Savings.
Okay,
900.
900 altogether. Did you first wipe out the endowment first? Because that was about 900 when I left. No? So you kept that intact?
250s come out of the endowment.
Okay. So you're down around 7
Thank you, Bob.
something.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
that may not be, that's an approximate number, but that's
Okay.
about the number.
So that's not as bad as I
That
thought.
came out
That's,
of the endowment.
yeah.
And then 900 came in a loan from across
Yeah.
the street.
And then the yearly was always in the red. We never made our yearly amounts
We should
years
be in the
ago.
black this year.
You're about, okay, and that's taking some out of your
We will
endowment.
be in the black.
Yeah, good, one way or the other. So that's still, so you still use your interest from your endowment to help with operating?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think most nonprofits do at this stage. We're all still recovering
Yeah.
from 2007-8.
Well, that means you have a brave board, because they've said,
do.
yes,
They're risk
move
takers.
forward on this project.
Yes, they're fantastic.
That's
They
wonderful.
really work hard, all of them. All of them.
Yeah, good.
Or a dumb one. I mean, you can look at it either way.
Bob and I have been looking at these numbers a lot of years. That's great. Are there any questions? Could you all explain this to somebody if you had to?
Just a basic, when you're talking about, picking the building up and putting it on this new foundation, are the bottom of the hills level enough just to fit on a flat foundation, or is it a lot of custom work too?
I think there will be a lot of work.
It's all
Yeah.
regular.
Although they are the original capstones.
Uh-huh.
So it's that on
Not
the
all of
original,
them
but
exist.
you need more.
But we need more.
It's so tempting to think of, temporary house, pick up a porch, put it down again.
Yeah.
But the bottom isn't level and square.
Yeah.
And you know all that, you looked at all that.
Yeah.
They're good people. You found good people.
Sure.
Everybody knows everything?
I told them earlier, Roger, that the 3 bids are not apples to apples.
Yeah.
But you can pull out the numbers pretty easily to figure out.
Thank you so much. Nice presentation.
Thank you.
Nice work. Woo. Dangerous. Okay, gang, thank you all. We did bells, we did cemetery landscaping, all
Carol,
ordinary
Andrea
conservation.
has a
Question. Would it be possible for me just to add some additional information to, some additional information for the board to consider for the society's request?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Far be it from us to silence you, no.
Andrea Young from the Historical Commission. Alexandra and I have talked about this at length, as did Suzanne Buchanan and I, while she was executive director. This building, I just wanted to add that this building is it is the last existing known procurement building or military building in these United States. And I think that that in itself is very unique. As you know, it used to be part of the fort, that was on Fort Hill. And then in the 1700s, it was moved and added onto. So my point being that when the building was taken apart, it was severed from its addition, and the chimney had to be removed in order to facilitate the actual move of the building. And there were a number of people who did put in a lot of time gratis to save that building, and for which we are forever grateful. And grateful to the society for accepting the building. So at this point, we moved the building in 2013. And so it's been there. With Greenbush funds, we were able to get it secure, weather tight. And that happened over a 2-year period. So, Larry, I think you make a good point. We don't know what it looked like, but all I know is that it was stable enough to move. Of course, Mr. Gordon can move just about anything. If he can't move it, nobody can. And he seems to think that he will be able to, obviously, move it onto its foundation. So I just think that of all the things that we have in town that are really special, this is extremely unique. And I don't know, when you took your tour, if you were able to, had gone upstairs. It's amazing, to be able to see the bark on the original trees that, from which the pieces came. So, and I think the other thing is that we are very fortunate to have craftspeople in town who are skilled in historic preservation, so that we can reliably assume that this work will be done well, and it will be done correctly, and it will truly be a restoration project. So thank you for letting me speak. Appreciate it.
Can I just make a comment?
Sure.
I am in complete agreement with you that the building is really special. We have no difference there.
Thank you, Larry.
I'm letting you ruminate. No other questions?
Are there any marks where it was in my arrows?
Bill, do you want to chime in on anything? or-
No, I apologize for coming in late.
That's okay. You could explain all these projects to someone if you needed to. You're,
Yeah.
that's it for tonight. We meet on the 3rd. No, the 8th, Monday the 8th.
We meet Monday, whatever it is.
Whatever the next Monday is, we're going to meet here, same time, same place. At that point, we'll listen to the second half of our applicants, and we will go over how we do the pre-voting practice. Not your voting, but it's think through the numbers and practice and get it into Carol. We'll go through all that at that moment. Okay, entertain a motion to
I move.
move. Anybody second his move?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Good night, everyone.
Now that we've
Thank you,
adjourned-
AdCom.
That was adjourned, I'd like to mention that